Did a Moderna representative make a horrific admission about the COVID-19 vaccine in a recorded phone call featured on The Stu Peters Show? No, that's not true. The relationship with Moderna of the person whose voice was recorded, and the extent of that person's knowledge of Moderna, is unknown. As is the case with many companies, the person on a customer care line could be a company employee, or could be a contract worker in a call center or working from home. Whatever the case, his words were intentionally distorted, cut off and misrepresented. The headline's claim of a horrific admission, doeds, not match the content of the recording. The claim originated in an episode of The Stu Peters Show, published on Red Voice Media on June 22, 2021, titled, Recordings of Moderna Representative Making Horrific Admission About Jab. The introductory text begins, quote, The Stu Peters Show. In a shocking recorded phone call between a jab victim and a representative of Moderna, the agent of the pharmaceutical company admitted that everyone that subjects themselves to the shot in the arm is part of the experiment. End quote. Users on social media only saw this title, description and thumbnail. Source: redvoicemedia.com. Screenshot taken on Wednesday, June 23, 23 hours 55 minutes and 9 seconds 2021 UTC. While the episode contains many claims, this fact check is addressing only the particular claims pertaining to the recorded phone call placed by Brittany Galvin, who has been a guest on the show several times, to Moderna's customer care line. At about 5 minutes 40 seconds into the video, Peters quickly reviews Galvin's case. She claims to have been diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome by a neurologist. She also says she has become magnetized. Peters says the aim of Galvin's call was to report her experience directly to Moderna. The recording of the phone call begins with the automated scripted greeting of the Moderna customer care line. Peters says there was a disconnection, and a representative, identified only as Gilbert, calls Galvin back. A piece of this conversation is missing, and the audience never hears Galvin describe the reason for her call or what problems she is experiencing. The call begins with Gilbert requesting the vaccine lot numbers recorded on Galvin's vaccination card. It is not clear whether Gilbert knew the call was being recorded by the person calling. At 7 minutes 26 seconds into the video, Galvin begins asking Gilbert questions. She asks him 3 questions in a row. Quote, "So what happens after this? I mean, what if? Have you guys seen a lot of this? Like, what's gonna happen?" End quote. Gilbert then makes a drawn-out, "yeah" sound at the start of his sentence. His "yeah" does not sound like an affirmative answer to her questions but a signal that he heard her and was going to try to speak. At this, Peters cuts back to himself and breaks it down for his audience. Quote, "So, the Moderna rep clearly says that they have seen these reactions. He doesn't seem surprised by any of her symptoms or her diagnosis. That's shocking. But not as shocking as the admission that he made next." End quote. Galvin then asks if there have been any cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome reported to Moderna and Pfizer. She mentions her own case plus 2 more she knows about in just one hospital. Before Gilbert can answer, she doubles up on questions again. Quote, "The vaccines are still in clinical trials, right? So doesn't this information help?" End quote. These last 2 questions have different answers. Yes, the clinical trial is ongoing. And, yes, information about adverse reactions is important and helpful, but this information is not part of the clinical trial. The clinical trials, which enrolled about 30,000 people under controlled conditions, are ongoing and patients cannot add themselves to the data. ClinicalTrials.gov lists the recruitment status of the trial as active, not recruiting. Gilbert does not describe the design of the trials. He says, quote, yes, exactly. So the information, does help. I mean, we are still gathering information, as people are continuing to get the vaccine. So anything that we do receive does help, for anything that happens in the future going forward." End quote. Galvin follows with, quote, "Is everyone that's getting the vaccine in the clinical trial, or is it only some of the vaccines are in the clinical trial? I'm very confused on that." End quote. At this point, Gilbert takes a step back and explains he has to read a disclaimer from Moderna and the FDA. This disclaimer text can be found on the clinical trial data page on the Moderna website. Quote,